Hello, my name is Kristen Bunten, and I will be using the story theory nursing model developed by Patricia Lear and Mary Jane Smith, and using that model to explore the nurse's role in assisting an adolescent to embrace health changes required to live with a newly diagnosed life-threatening anaphylactic reaction to food. This presentation will show that using the story theory model is an effective tool to use with adolescents to improve health, as by the nursing act of listening to the adolescent's story, it establishes a trusted relationship with the nurse, thereby promoting positive interactions which can lead to improved health decisions. Story theory is based on the premise that health promoting change can be fostered by embracing one's own story. The best nursing care and practice decisions are based on acknowledging both the responses of the body and the personal meaning a patient assigns to those body experiences. Nurses who have the opportunity to work with adolescents consistently, such as school nurses, provide a resource for emotional support as they assist adolescents cope with everyday life and learn to navigate life into adulthood. A serious diagnosis can bring fear and uncertainty into an individual's life, and this is certainly true when an adolescent is diagnosed with a new food allergy with anaphylactic implications, especially at a time when the adolescent is in the development stage of establishing independence and their own identity. The framework of the story theory has three concepts: intentional dialogue, connecting with self and relation, and creating ease. And let's explore those further. The intentional dialogue portion is where the story emerges and where the nurse will be able to learn what is of personal importance to the adolescents in light of the new health challenge, especially as the circumstances may have created uneasiness. There can be no assumptions, and it requires the nurse to be truly present and immersed in listening to the story. Florence Nightingale herself advised nurses to listen to patients and not chit chat. At a time in life when the adolescent is craving independence, there may now be tension as parents fear for the safety in light of a life-threatening condition. The adolescent may have individual fear, especially if there was a recent experience in an anaphylactic reaction. And then there are social implications of utmost importance to adolescents when the adolescent wants to be the same as their peers, but now is faced with being different. Connecting with self and relation is the reflective part of the process. It is where the patient puts the current health challenge in perspective against the highs and lows of their life with an awareness of time, history, and other people. The highs are the points in the story that are positive for the adolescents. The lows are the difficult times. There are also turning points, which is when the story changes or shifts. An example of what this could be like for an adolescent: friends could be a high or a low. If friends are accepting, if they assist in promoting safety and protection from the known allergen, and if they're empathetic to the adolescent, then the story can have highs. But if friends are unthoughtful about exposure to the known allergen, are teasing, or don't let the adolescent disregard the adolescent safety, that can be a low for the individual. Creating ease occurs when the experience becomes meaningful or is understood. It can be when there is a shift in viewpoint accompanied by an action to improve health. For the adolescents, this could be when there is confidence to self-advocate for safety with both friends and strangers, and the realization that the adolescent does not need a parent or a school nurse or any adult to set up perceived safety nets. Example of perceived safety nets could be when a parent calls ahead to a birthday party to see what food is being served, or to warn the parent about an anaphylactic food reaction, or always insisting on driving and escorting the student around town. Creating ease could occur when the student feels like they have the confidence to be independent of those safety nets. There are 7 phases that the nurse can use to obtain evidence when using the story theory. Phase 1 is gathering the story about the anaphylactic experience and the diagnosis. It allows the adolescent to tell the story from their individual perspective, not the parent's perspective. By allowing the adolescents to tell the story, the nurse will be able to understand the unique perspective of the adolescents. Storytelling can be a tool in building resilience and is recognized as having therapeutic benefits. This may be a time when fear of potentially life-threatening situation is revealed, and for the adolescents, a fear of the loss of independence due to parental worry may emerge. In phase 2, the nurse reconstructs the story, incorporating both the perspective of the nurse and the adolescents about the life-threatening allergy diagnosis. This new story includes an ending that incorporates what is most important about the health situation, and it pays attention to what is important to the adolescent. When working with the adolescent, the story may end with the individual feeling comfortable with advocating for safety when eating and self-administering an EpiPen if there is a reaction. Phase 3 is when the nurse utilizes current research to connect what is in literature to the health problem. When turning the story into evidence, there may be a need to rename the health challenge in order to make it more applicable to nursing practice, and this is considered phase 4. In phase 5, the nurse redefines the story using high points, low points, and turning points as defined by the individual, in this case, the adolescents. Phase 6 is when recounting what will lead to the adolescents moving forward with the acceptance of the diagnosis, along with decisions to improve health. And when using this theory for evidence, the final phase, phase 7, is collecting more stories around the same health challenge. Story theory, meta paradigm. Person. The person is the center of the theory, and the person needs to have acceptance of the whole story as their own story. Nursing. Encounters occur within the context of the story. Society environment. This is when the stories of the patient, the nurse, the family, other providers come together to create the whole story for the individual. Health. The story and experience reaches a point of being meaningful, or there is an understanding. Assumptions of the theory is that the best nursing practice is based on acknowledging both body responses and the personal meaning a patient assigns to the body responses. You cannot separate these two things out, or your nursing care is not as desirable. They may not always be equal, but both parts need to be there in order to have adequate and good and decent nursing care.